Of course, we all love to eat, and during this time, we've probably overdone things a little. But Dr. Ovidiu Peneș, a distinguished doctor of medical sciences, is the one who will tell us that we haven't exactly done things right.
But in the end, I got away.
Yes, and it seems that there weren't as many people who ended up, as usual, in the emergency rooms, because in one way or another, people somehow paid much more attention to what they were eating. Yes. They became a little more conscious of the problem. However, another thing is happening during this period, that we are all stuck at home, and the journey from the bed to the refrigerator is extremely short. It has become so incredibly short. And not only that, everyone getting bored at home, to stimulate those serotonin receptors and to produce some kind of pleasure. They watch films, or while they're watching movies, TV shows, and so forth, they go and eat.
Not to mention the fact that physical activity,
it's almost entirely non-existent. Yes, even though people have posted a whole series of exercises on the internet for you to do while you're in quarantine, it's very easy to go to the fridge these days, and it's very easy to eat at times that are no longer fixed, to grab all sorts of snacks that aren't quite right, and to make another major mistake, immediately lie down again on the couch in a horizontal position. Because what happens is that generally, and it was Easter recently, people consumed many things that placed a very significant burden on our entire digestive system. Mayonnaise, a lot of mayonnaise with egg yolk, which is a very rich fat, and the quantities consumed were quite substantial, demanding much more from our bodies. Or for instance, fatty meat was eaten. Lamb, for example, is another such case. It's fatty meat, either as soup or as roasted. The stomach had to process it, and the bile with our fluid, as we call it, and the duodenum, so including the pancreas, to secrete a whole range of enzymes and break it down into very small pieces, into smaller and smaller molecules, so that they can pass into the bloodstream. We chew what we chew, some more, some less, some in the oral cavity, where we add some enzymes. After that, the food goes through this tube, which is called the esophagus, and then reaches the stomach. Our stomach also starts, because look at what it has inside. It has a mucous membrane, and it begins to release acid to break down all the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates into even smaller molecules. However, if things here are in excess and we don't even give it enough time to do its job, this musculature and this mucous membrane start to be affected, leading to gastritis or ulcer pain. What's more, when we lie down horizontally after we've eaten, the food can have a tendency to return into the esophagus. So in this tube, yes, the esophagus, and a whole series of burning sensations can appear. Yes, acid regurgitations. Some of you even feel them, others don't. Which do nothing more than burn this tube with stomach acid and undigested food particles. Other things, if asked, Ambina,
can you imagine, forgive me for smiling, but can you imagine that all the things you're saying, as you say them, are happening to the badger? I mean, I can see him.
Well, yes, he is. He's the perfect example of overeating and all the delicious things that... And another thing, what can I tell you? At the end of the meal, we always finish with sweets. These sweets, it's a shame. No cake, whipped whipped cream, concentrated and refined sweets. These also cause a highly acidic stomach secretion, and what's more, when it moves slower, it requires pancreatic and bile fluid secretion. So the gallbladder, that small organ, we all have located just beneath the liver, right here. Yes, it should normally be releasing its digestive juices rhythmically and gradually into the duodenum. But if we overdo it with acid and we consume this food in excess and at totally irregular hours, then contractions will start to appear. And you might feel pain in this area, pain that extends all the way to your back. It takes your breath away. It comes and goes just as quickly. Pain in the esophagus with acid reflux, stomach pains, with burning sensations behind the in this area of the upper abdomen. You feel these pains Do not mistake this, because very often in situations where you indulge in food excesses and at the end you also wash it down with alcohol, you add a lot of salt and, as they say, for digestion, but even though it's not entirely correct, you also have a strong coffee at the end of the meal, you could be in for an even more unpleasant surprise. And the pain that you are feeling here, which you might think is stomach pain, that particular burning sensation could actually be caused by, just look at the heart's position right here. It could be due to a spasm that occurs in one of these blood vessels of the heart, and it might even turn out to be a myocardial infarction. Then it becomes very serious and you will find yourself experiencing perspiration with significant breathing difficulties, or a sharp pain in your left shoulder, or perhaps a very intense crushing sensation right behind your breastbone, as if a heavy boot has just violently struck that bone. Yes, right away, emergency services must be called for this. Don't wait any longer. Common indigestion is usually milder. They are not a very intense or significant pain. Contractions occur, and they're generally linked to the poor diet we have now. The duodenum can also suffer, or pains may arise that will link to this indigestion in the lower abdomen, like in the colon. Or you might experience certain spasmodic pains that are associated with a very large abdomen, meaning your belly swells up, becoming quite distended like that of a batrachian, like a frog. It's severe, it's painful, because the colon has either started to lose its peristalsis, no longer moving the food bolus further down, and therefore even an intestinal occlusion can occur due to a very poor diet and certain food excesses. What we need to do is to start, especially in this period when it's very easy for us to eat at any hour, to eat at night, not to go out anymore, because we no longer have a regular work schedule. Let's begin to adjust a little bit the food that we're eating. Easter has just passed, there are still more holidays, and you probably have some leftovers. Please don't overdo it with the large amounts of food. Try to create a regular meal schedule, and if you happen to have a large amount of food, please divide it into multiple meals. The amount of food that we consume is extremely important. At home, we have plates of all different sizes available. It truly matters how you serve your portion, doesn't it? If you naturally select a large platter of this type, you will certainly eat much more. It's very important to take a plate, to choose one that is the size of your own palm. Yes, so we choose this and split it. Instead of eating just one meal, usually at night before we go to bed, let's eat 5 or 6 small meals, pairing them with things that are easy to process, easy to digest. We don't want to wake up with pancreas pain. The pancreas, which also has to secrete enzymes to digest this food at some point, whether or not it's associated with a gallbladder problem, can give you a very unpleasant surprise, and you could develop pancreatitis. You'll realize that this is like a searing, band-like pain that literally brings you to your knees from the sheer agony. That's another emergency entirely. We are not letting it pass. We report and present ourselves at the emergency room because the measures taken right from the very beginning are crucial for the subsequent evolution of the case. But to prevent such things, we therefore use a small plate. We can eat every 3 to 4 hours, another portion and another portion as much as you need. You don't have to starve yourselves, and make sure to include quality proteins in this portion. You either choose a lean fish or choose a lean chicken breast. Even if you still have lamb, do not select the fatty parts. Just remove the fat completely and only go with the muscle portion, which is the protein. For example, if you choose a serving of fish, you should make sure 100 grams of fish, choose quality carbohydrates. What exactly does that mean? Green vegetables. Yes, plenty of green. If you put on your plate green vegetables like broccoli, asparagus, or even zucchini, you'll choose a portion of carbohydrates from these options. So, for example, zucchini. And make sure there are plenty of cucumbers. Yes, anything that's green can be roughly this volume at every single meal. Always include various root vegetable salads as they are very high in fiber. These fibers, you'll see, help with digestion and provide extra regulation for how food reaches your liver. The liver is another organ that processes all these foods. The slower you administer it, the more easily it will function. Some of you have fatty liver, also known as hepatic steatosis, and in that situation, we face a different problem. These individuals will process their food much more slowly and will certainly encounter some unpleasant surprises. That is why many fibers will be processed slowly by the digestive system and will gradually enter into your circulation. You can even include some long-grain wild black rice. In the same way, aim for a serving that won't exceed the size of a coffee cup. So, boiled tea. And you can also add, for example, other green vegetables like these peas, which are very rich in protein and fiber. And just like that, you've created a balanced portion without forgetting to include the essential fats. A few nuts. So, just a few walnut kernels, perhaps 30 or 40 grams. And you will have created a very well-balanced portion to eat, ensuring that your pancreas, liver, and gallbladder won't have to suffer. Another thing that happens,
a Romanian doesn't cook in this particular fashion. A Romanian cooks with plenty of pork, with mesi, and with sausages.
and this pork, for example, if you make a conscious choice to select cuts of meat that don't have all this excessive fat and you don't deep fry it, and you try to avoid using frying methods with lard or even with oils, but instead you prepare it more often in the oven, placing it on a baking tray. You understand? And you remove this saturated fat beforehand because it causes significant problems for our entire digestive tract. You will have some pleasant surprises, and that is you won't end up having these digestive complications anymore. Here's another thing you can do to help yourself. Make sure to include at every meal or at least twice a day foods that contain probiotics, things like yogurts, kefir, and similar items. Help yourselves by grating a little bit of ginger into your salads. This way you can improve digestion even when you have a heavier meal. Like now the lamb, right? We remove the fat, take only the lean part, and try to add a bowl of salad. This bowl of salad will greatly help digestion and will slow down the way it reaches the bloodstream, first at the liver, all these heavy things, and this way you will protect yourselves. Another thing we do, especially now during quarantine, is that alcohol is overdone, either after meals or during these holidays. While watching series during meals, yes? While watching series during breaks. In the evening, people say, I can't fall asleep because I'm not tired, I haven't been outside, I haven't done any sports. Let me have a small drink. Now, this regular consumption, besides the fact that it causes addiction and it will be very difficult to break this cycle of alcohol, its excess, or even the regular consumption of a strong alcoholic beverage, because Romanians are accustomed to having a strong drink every single day, claiming it gives them an appetite or helps them fall asleep. However, the sleep that alcohol provides is not quality sleep. You feel it, it makes you drowsy, but can sleep stay shallow, and the hormones we need at night to regenerate us and make us stronger the next morning aren't secreted. So try to avoid drinking alcohol before bed, but people do overdo it. The next day after such an excess, you know what happens? Headaches, a general feeling of being unwell, nausea and vomiting. This is yet another mechanism contributing to maldigestion, or what we call induced indigestion, because it creates various issues throughout the entire digestive tract. It overstimulates the stomach's acid secretion, it can significantly worsen an existing ulcer, it completely disrupts bile production, and it throws off the pancreas's secretion. But more, this organ, our body's metabolic factory, suffers. It depletes its enzymes and its ability to convert alcohol into glucose, then into carbon dioxide and water. Especially a fatty liver, which is very likely to be steatotic, and a fatty liver caused by excessive alcohol consumption. So what is it good to do the next day? Be mindful that your blood sugar has dropped. So it's very important to consume something that has a low glycemic index, meaning a good carbohydrate. As I mentioned earlier, a serving of black rice, about 1 cup of this uncooked rice. You cook it and then you eat a generous portion of wild black rice. Okay? You should make sure to eat foods that are rich in B vitamins. You should really consider taking a B1 and B6 supplement. And it's very important to know that alcohol pulls all the water from your body and causes severe dehydration. That's why you crave pickles so much. No, because pickles contain salt. Even though it might seem beneficial because it draws out water, it's important not to retain this water, but to flush it out, meaning to rinse with plenty of water. So in the morning, it's really important to eat something that gives you energy, like carbohydrates, and to drink a lot of water. So B1, B6, and plenty of water. Drink 3 to 4 liters of water until your urine starts to become colorless, and you will see that all that bad feeling you had will be completely resolved. Furthermore, when you're planning to drink a lot of alcohol before you even start, it's wise to make sure your blood sugar is consistently good and to already take your B-complex vitamins before you begin that festive meal where you might consume more alcohol than you really should. There's just one more problem.
I know, and I have many friends who eat really well. They eat healthily, they eat very mindfully. But you see, between meals at the movies, a chip, a cookie, or some popcorn still finds its way in. Chips and other similar items are often based on these hydrogenated fats, and it's really not good for you to consume them.
Even more so, it's important to regulate your body and the secretions of these glands. Think about it. There's salivary secretion, there's gastric secretion, there's pancreatic secretion, and there's the secretion of bile, this liquid from the liver, which collects in the gallbladder, all of which need to function at a very regular rhythm. Another major mistake we make is maintaining a horizontal and static position because we no longer activate our bodies and either remain sedentary for extended periods or move extremely little. All these peristaltic movements, the contractions of the entire intestines, they need to contract, and the stomach also needs to contract. They start to slow down and all digestive processes don't work as they should. That's why I again recommend a very active life during quarantine. Start physical activity for at least 20-30 minutes daily, involving your whole body. Push-ups, squats, everyone according to their physical tolerance. Try to engage your abdominal muscles, movements, abdominal contractions, contractions of these lumbar muscles, the ones that support your spine. It's very important because a whole range of spinal problems appear during this period, but abdominal contraction, squats and push-ups are very good between meals, okay? It is very important that you engage your entire body, and the best thing to do is to perform 2 or 3 squats, okay? 2, 3 lunges, a few sets of abdominal exercises, and make sure you are very careful to add a lot of dietary fiber to every single food item. We extend our sincere thanks to Dr. Ovidiu Veneș, Doctor of Medical Sciences, who specifically chose this important topic.
Think about it. We're coming out of a period where overeating is already commonplace, Kinte, and we're looking forward to May 1st, which I see as full of activity. Or the doctor has curbed our enthusiasm a bit, and rightly so. Ladies and gentlemen, a person who lives healthily, because otherwise I don't believe she would be well. She would be skin and bones. This is Carmen. We're going to see her in a few images in just a few seconds because, because we can.